And we are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream here on the Film Stock channel. It's Monday, starting the week with a bang here. So hope everyone's doing well. I see we got a lot of people in the chat already. This is not the typical live stream, though. I usually do these solo. Well, today I have a very special guest. Sorry we're running a bit late, but we are here now at 7:18 p.m. and we are ready. I am joined by Sean Chandler from Sean Chandler Talks About. Sean, how you doing?
I am good, and if you're wondering why we're running behind, it is 100% on me. Very sorry about that to Chris, as well as to all of you watching. I got my time zones mixed up. I was on a live stream, a private live stream, and I was like, someone told me, like, Sean, you're supposed to be on with Film Stock. Uh-oh, I better get out of here. So very sorry to all of you. Very excited to be here now.
All is well. Glad you could make it. And if you guys are here in the chat, be sure to fire off your questions. We're going to answer as many as we can. Super chat is the way to go to guarantee that we can get to your question, comment, or concern. And I see we got about 37 people in here, so be sure to hit that like button. It'd mean a lot. And let's do this thing. We're starting out strong with some super chats. The first question of the day is from Nicely Faithful. Thanks for the super chat, saying, it's Keith from Charlotte. Bummed I didn't make it to MegaCon. Any more Comic Cons on y'all's schedules this year? What city has given you the best convention experience so far? Thanks. Well, first of all, thank you for the super chat. It means a lot. Yes, I actually did go to MegaCon this year. I know, Sean, you hosted some panels there, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. Do you have any other Comic Cons on your radar this year? I know there's some more fan expos coming up. So, I'll actually be at one of them. So I'll talk about that after you go.
So nothing is official at the moment. There's a lot of behind the scenes. MegaCon was a fantastic experience that went great on so many different levels, and so we're trying to figure out what's next and what that looks like. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at Fan Expo Dallas because I take my kids every year, and I think I will be hosting one panel on Saturday. I don't know if anyone will be joining me. It's not going to be a big event like MegaCon. And there's some discussion of a bunch of other things. Fan Expo Chicago will probably have me as well as a 2 or 3 friends with me at that one. And then we're looking at GalaxyCon in Austin, where I live, as something new and different. So those are the ones that are on the table for me. But MegaCon was a really cool experience.
That was awesome. Yeah, I was down there and got to meet some cool celebs, got to meet you, obviously. And apologies again if my Wi-Fi is acting up. It's giving me that little thing on StreamYard. But I'm actually going to be at Fan Expo Dallas as well. My girlfriend and I are going. And some Stranger Things people will be there. We're excited. Joseph Quinn, who plays Eddie Munson, will be there. And Cam's in the chat right now. I see she sent a super chat. She loves Joseph Quinn. So we're going to be meeting him. And that'll be fun.
He was at New Orleans in January. Mm-hmm. And I obviously go to a lot of these. I've never seen people wig out the way that they wigged out about him.
I can imagine, dude.
And I kid you not, we're walking back Saturday night from the convention center to our hotel. I'm there with my kids, and there was like a water fountain thing, and their kids were playing in it. And this girl walks by, and her mother's with her, and she's just bawling. Look at like, is she okay? What's going on here? She just met Eddie Munson. She met him, and he touched her hand. She doesn't ever want to wash her hand. It's like, people really say that? Like, I thought that was a joke. But she was really like, he touched my hand. He touched my hand, and freaking out. And so yeah, people love that. Like, how crazy is that? Like a side character in the 4th season of a show, and people love that. Mm-hmm. Dude, so that's awesome. You'll be at Fan Expo Dallas. Maybe I should follow up with you see what my plans are, and if we could sync that up a little bit, that could be kind of cool.
That would be awesome. Absolutely. I see my girlfriend Cam said, sounds like me. Yeah, she will be like, I'll have to be the one who's like in control there when we meet him. Like, I'll have to be calming her down, which is like, it's just funny to think that way. But we are meeting Joseph Quinn, and I believe the actress who plays Chrissy, who's only in one episode of Stranger Things, will be there as well. So absolutely, we'll have to talk about that. That sounds fun. But let's see, we have some more super chats here. Let me get to them. Again, 100 people in the chat here. Thank you guys so much for joining. Hit that like button. It means a lot. And let's see, this is from Super Landon Review. It says, I love and watch Sean videos. Well, thank you. Yes. Sean's the man. He's like the inspiration for most of us, I feel. So Sean's a legend.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's always weird to hear that, because I know all the people that inspired me to start. And then now people message me regularly like, hey, you inspired me to start. It's like, well, that's crazy and weird. Like, I don't know how to process this information.
Yeah. Let's see. Hector. I always go Hector from Pirates of the Caribbean 3 whenever Hector's in the house. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for the super chats. Cam, my girlfriend, says, what projects are you most looking forward to in 2023 and 2024? I have one that I'm just dying to talk about. I actually don't know how you feel about this. I would love to discuss it. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, and I'm pumped for Indiana Jones 5. It's my most anticipated movie of the year. I know when they like released the budget for that film, I think I saw on Twitter you were like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. So I would love to talk about that one. How are you feeling about Indy 5?
I'm all over the place on this movie.
Okay.
For all the reasons. So it's Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy. I don't trust them right now. But it's James Mangold.
Mm-hmm.
Ford versus Ferrari. I think that was my favorite movie, whatever year that was. And Logan. He did Copland 20 years ago. Like, this guy has done a bunch of movies I've loved. 3:10 to Yuma. So I really trust him. But not Lucasfilm. And then that trailer plays. A little bit more Indiana Jones. It hits those notes. And it gets my heart going. At the same time, I look at that trailer and I go, it's too much CGI. It's too much green screen. And for me, that violates the principle of the series when you start going in that direction with it. And you and even to that point, like, you can't have an 80-year-old man on a motorcycle in the middle of a crowd. That's a bad idea. But even to that point, if Harrison Ford can't do it anymore, that probably is to say that the fantasy of Indiana Jones, it's like the dream of every guy to be intelligent, but also be the man that when called into action, you can be the hero that kills Nazis and get the girl in the end. Like, that's the fantasy of it. I don't know if that translates to an 80-year-old man that'll break his ankle. So I've got all these different feelings. So I'm so excited to see it and so nervous to see it.
I feel that, it's again, my most anticipated movie of the year. And I worry, I've told like people who follow me last year, this was like Obi-Wan Kenobi for me. That was like, I was just over the moon excited, massive letdown for me personally. So I hope this isn't a repeat
Agreed.
of that. But I am one of the, and I don't know how you feel about this movie. I actually like Crystal Skull. I was 8 when it came out. Okay. I saw it with my dad. Nostalgia reigns supreme there, so I am very self-aware of that. It is the worst indie movie for me. But the way I look at it is, we've got James Mangold coming in. We've got fresh blood. I've dug all the trailers and marketing for this movie. I think it's going to be a hit. And I saw Spielberg saw the movie, and he said, I thought I was the only one who could make a great Indiana Jones movie. So that excites me. I just have a good feeling about it, but I totally see some skepticism with Kathleen Kennedy because I have just not loved a lot of new Star Wars stuff lately, especially the movies. I don't know. I really want to love this movie, and it would be heartbreaking if it was a letdown, but I have faith. Now, I will say, I think a lot of this movie will be, well, I've heard that, this Dial of Destiny, we have to learn more about it. My fear is that there's going to be some like time travel element to the movie.
Right.
And that's where I just have to see it to believe it and see how I feel about the way it plays out. That just doesn't sound right. So I see what you're saying when you say it could betray like what the franchise is based on. So
and it's that stuff that like I want to. You watch the trailer and it hits like all the right notes, the music cues, the interactions with Sala.
Yeah.
Like, man, that looks so good. But there's still a lot of places where this could go off the rails and get crazy. So speaking of most looking forward to, I want to throw one out there. Let me make sure I get the name of this one right. There's one coming out later this year in September called The Creator.
okay.
It is directed by Gareth Edwards, Godzilla and Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah.
Hasn't really done much since then. So it's a new sci-fi epic with John David Washington is the lead. You got Ken Watanabe in there. I've got a friend that saw it at a press screening last week. Says it's awesome.
Okay.
And I heard coming out of CinemaCon, I guess they played some footage, and someone said this thing looks massive in scope and scale, size, and it's like, okay, I can't wait to see the trailer for it. And then I got the text a few days later from my guy that was at a test screening. He says it's fantastic.
Okay.
And an original sci-fi epic. All right, immediately you're in my top, and from the guy that did Rogue One. And I liked his Godzilla. I mean, it had some issues, but I like, generally speaking, I like what he brings to the table, the aesthetic that his movies have. Doing a big, grand scale sci-fi epic. That was top 5 most anticipated for me.
I was going to say, too, with John David Washington at the forefront, I like him a lot. That sounds like, I mean, he was the headliner actor in Tenet, which I'm a fan of. So that sounds like something I would definitely enjoy. In fact, I actually didn't know that was coming out until you just now mentioned it.
I hadn't heard anything about it.
That sounds like it's going to go under the radar.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very early in the process, and everything, but like, so I saw one tweet about it after CinemaCon. I think one guy tweeted about it, and I went, "Oh, that was the first it was on my radar." And then I got this text from the guy, and I was like, "Oh, well, I got to pay attention to that one." Let me pull this picture real.
In terms of 2024, though, while you look that up, I am hoping, and I know that there's a lot of comments in the chat about the writer strike. I'm hoping that Cobra Kai, the final season, can come out next year. I see you're rocking the hat. I had to bring that up.
All right, so this is what my friend said. Put it on your most anticipated list. Done. Absolutely awesome. Sci-fi on a massive level. Like, the scale is insane. For test screenings, they do focus groups with 20 to 30 people. They tend to have a wide variety of reactions. The guy struggled to find someone who rated it anything under very good or excellent. And he goes to a lot of these. Of these. So
that's very, very promising.
This is that's why like as soon as what are you most anticipating? We've all Across the Spider-Verse, obviously, Mission Impossible, obviously. Yeah. No one's talking about this movie, so let's start talking about it.
Yeah, I like that. I'll have to add that to my IMDb watch list for sure. Very, very intrigued by that. But I see we have a few more super chats. The Disney Nerd says, "OMG, it's Sean Chandler. It's been so long." Well, welcome in.
He was in the live stream that I was on right before this. He was in the live stream where I went, "Oh, I'm supposed to be somewhere else." Once again, sorry, everyone.
That's great. Super Lane reviews another super chat, and this kind of ties into what I was just talking about. He says, Miguel, Chosen, and Johnny are top 3 Cobra Kai characters. So I guess we can answer top 3 Cobra Kai characters. That'd be a fun, fitting one. While we're on this topic, I guess we could discuss the timeline of season 6 and when, our thoughts on the writer strike, because I haven't actually spoke about that yet on a live stream or in a video. But I'll throw it over to you. You can go top 3 characters and then kind of when you think we'll get the final season.
Okay, top 3 characters. Johnny, easy number 1.
Okay.
No question, no competition. I think Johnny, on terms of entertainment value as well as a really compelling character arc, there's not even competition. He's easily my number 1. And some of that, when you're a 40-year-old guy, you tend to relate to the older character.
Yeah.
But, if you grow up watching the original Karate Kid, then they're the ones that you relate to more. But there's no competition. Johnny's number 1. Miguel's probably a number 2 of same sort of idea of he's the new Karate Kid that they've given the classic underdog story, but because it's a series, it has more ups and downs, it has more complexities to it. And even the fact that he's gone through this journey and reached a point in time where it's maybe I don't want to be the Karate Kid anymore. And that's interesting on its own level. He's trying to figure out what he wants out of this. That's compelling and interesting. And number 3, I think it gets a little more trickier from there because there's a variety of different ones. The one that I don't know if she's my actual number 3, but the third person I want to mention is Tori.
Okay.
Because I hated her for 2 seasons. I thought she was one of the worst characters, and they turned her around. And they found a way to not cheapen the jerk that she was, but to reframe it and put little things to where you would see why she would do specific things and what would soften her and what would pull her back and why would she be the way that she was. And I think she's my number 3, but she's the third one I'd want to mention.
Totally fair, yeah. Tori's a character that I despised early on, and I've warmed up to her, especially in season 5, as we get to see almost all the dojos come together in a way. For me, top 3 real quick. It's hard not to put Johnny at 1. You hit the nail on the head with that. Johnny's the man. I'm going to show some love to, because I could go Miguel too as well. I love Miguel. But I'm going to show some love to Robbie. I think that he's just one of the most fascinating characters, the way he's written. You kind of, same situation. It's you don't really like this guy early on. Then he comes around and he sort of gets screwed by everybody. And then he goes back to Cobra Kai. I think that he's got a great redemption story. And then this is a hot take, but I have some big Cobra Kai fan people who I talk to. And I don't know how you feel about this character, but I like Sam LaRusso a lot. She's probably in my top 5. I know she's one of the more divisive characters. A lot of people just hate her, but I really do appreciate her, and I love that near the end of the current seasons we're had, she's sort of getting a little bit of that Johnny and her going away from like the LaRusso way.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Sam. I think they found the right. I don't know. I struggle to even understand the people that don't like her. And
I know what you mean. It's really unwarranted in my opinion.
And I wonder if some of that. I don't know. I don't know. It's like I don't understand what the thorn in their side. Like, what's the thing how's she pricking them that she's like, what is this? Like, it's easy to look at Tori and what she was doing and being like, she's so aggressive, so angry that she just feels like this cartoon character. But then with Sam, it's like, well, she's entitled. Like, is she? Like, I don't. And then I think some people, they get mad because of her having different guys she's interested in, but it's called being a teenager. And it was totally over a period of time. Like, you cheated on this guy, and maybe it's people that are picking sides in the relationships, and she's mad that she maybe I just don't take enough of that stuff seriously. You know, it's just like teenage stuff to me. But so I like Sam.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So I love Sam as well, and hopefully the writer strike doesn't last too long. We can, the writers can get paid, and we can get back to having them, do their thing. So we'll see what happens with that. But we got a question in here. I have to bring this up before we get to some more of the super chats. Film Kid says, who thinks Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was the best out of the 3? And we can kind of twist this as well and just like talk about Guardians 3 because I loved it. It's my favorite of the trilogy. And it's actually spoilers for my MCU ranking for those who haven't seen it. It's my 4 in the MCU. So I adored it. What's your consensus like in terms of the trilogy itself? Like, would you say it's your favorite, or do you still prefer the original? I know how you feel about Volume 2.
Well, I've softened on Volume 2 on this latest rewatch.
As have I.
For a variety of reasons. I don't know if this will stay long term. After 2 viewings, in my latest ranking, it inched out Volume 1.
Okay.
Which volume, if you don't know where I had the first one, it's like in my number 6 or something like that. It's in my way up in my top 10. And so I inched it out. I don't know if that'll stay long term, but I just thought this one was so emotionally satisfying. There's not a lot of movies that can pull that many different emotions out of you, that can make you laugh and cry, and not just like there's tears of just tragedy, there's tears of victory. Like, it pulls so many big emotions out that like I just have to have it way up there.
I couldn't resonate with that more. Like, at the end of this movie, I'm not going to spoil anything, but near the end of the movie, it felt so triumphant, and just the way I described it is like if I was given a shot of feel good like in my arm. Like, it just I felt amazing all over. It was bittersweet. I couldn't have thought of a better way to end this trilogy. It took everything I love about this group of characters and their dynamic and the first 2 movies, enhanced it, to 1,000. It was full James Gunn. I loved this movie, and I think it had the strongest villain of the trilogy as well, because he was despicable. Now, I don't think the High Evolutionary is a character that's like a top tier overall MCU villain, just because some of the other villains are more understood. You can like truly see where they're coming from. This guy was just evil, pure evil, pretty much. But I do think that of the 3 main Guardians villains, he's my number 1.
Yeah, I would say easily he's the number 1, but I also don't think the competition with Ego and Ronan is particularly strong. Sorry,
especially Ronan. Especially Ronan.
But I mean, I think like what you kind of said in there of like, I couldn't have written a better ending. I think that's what was so good about it, is that all of us had something in our mind of where we thought they were headed and thought they might do. And all of us were epically wrong in our predictions. in the videos that we made in anticipation, we were epically wrong in where things were headed. And none of us were annoyed or disappointed about it. And I think, like, even to kind of like tie it back to even some of the stuff like with WandaVision, where people were like, well, you guys were just disappointed because you developed these theories in your head and then your theory didn't come out to be true. Problem was, our theories were more compelling than what they delivered with WandaVision. James Gunn delivered something so much more interesting than what I came up with, that revealed things about the characters that I hadn't seen, but then I went, yeah, that's right. That what you're saying is right. That was always there. I just missed it. That is so much more satisfying, emotionally complex than the more simplistic conclusion I had in my head.
Couldn't have thought of a better ending. And you know, you made me think of something there. The Infinity War Endgame era, how everyone was like, here's who's gonna die in Endgame or whatever, or excuse me, Infinity War. That's the one that everyone was wrong about. So that was just a funny little thing it made me think of there. But we have some more super chats here. Dylan says, hi, Chris, and OMG, Sean, I'm a huge fan of yours. Well, thank you, Dylan. Thank you for the super chat.
Hey, Dylan.
Let's see. We got another one here from the Disney Nerd. What do you think of Across the Spider-Verse being a confirmed 2 hours, 20 minutes, making it the longest Western animated film? For me personally, this is a little concerning. I do really enjoy the first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, but 2 hours and 20 minutes for an animated movie that's just extremely long. In fact, 2 hours and 20 minutes for a movie in general, at least for my personal taste, that's a long commitment. So we'll see. I think it'll be great, but that's a little long. And for an animated movie, especially, I mean, I'm thinking usually in an animated movie, I'll be here, an hour 30, hour 45 tops. That's almost double that in a way, or a whole hour longer, I should say. So we'll see. I do believe it will be great. But 2 hours and 20 minutes, for an animated movie, that's an ask right there, I would say.
Yeah, and I'll, as a parent, on two different sides of this, 2 hours and 20 minutes is a lot. Just in general, some of the, watching movies, trying to get everything I need to get watched while also spending time with my family, it's tough when you see a movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Especially to go see it in the theater. You have to drive to the theater. There's not a theater 5 minutes from my house. They're all 15 minutes for the press screenings. They're normally 30 minutes from my house, and you're supposed to go early to those. So yeah. That's but add the travel there and back plus being early, that's another 90 minutes. 2 hour and 20 minute long movie is now a 5 hour, 4 hour long adventure to go to the film. And that's time I'm not with my family. Other side to it, my kids put on Into the Spider-Verse all the time. We've watched that. We rewatched that film countless times. And I could walk downstairs right now and say, guys, we're going to watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And everyone would go, cool, awesome, let's do it. In fact, it's on my list of things I need to watch because the new one's coming out. Mm-hmm. And they've tried to get me to watch it sooner, but I got to watch all these Disney live action remakes before then. Mm. And I just think 2 hours and 20 minutes, you take them to the theater to a movie that long, and I've taken my kids to movies that are long. They at least my son saw Endgame in the theater, but they start shuffling, they start moving around, and they'll turn. How much longer is the movie? I don't know. I've never seen it before either. How would I know how much longer is the movie? And how much, or is it over? I'm not on my watch. That's a lot.
That's a long ask, and I'd say yeah. For me, if a movie's over 2 hours and 15, I can start to feel it in the theater. And it's not that I'm losing enjoyment, but it's just this feeling of restlessness almost, where I know I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a bunch of content about this movie and I want to do this, this, and this. But it's even the funny thing is though, John Wick 4, I loved, and it was a dang near 3 hours, and I was fine with it. It flew by to me. So I guess it just depends on the pacing. So I think a lot of us kind of overread into the runtime of a movie. We'll see what it's all about. We'll see what's up with it.
But I think even at that point of it's the longest animated film Hollywood has ever put out, that immediately says something. That everybody knows this is a gigantic ask for the type of people that go to this type of movie, that no one has dared give an animated film a runtime this long. Yeah, if you're going to do this epic Across the Spider-Verse, tell this tale, I guess you wanted to. You got a lot of story to tell there, but it's also part one of a 2-part story. So I don't even what is this epic thing that they've made? This one's 2 hours and 20 minutes. The next one's 3 hours long. What is this?
I have no clue, honestly, and we'll have to see. But yeah, that's my big concern probably. And then we'll move to the next question. Is the trailer. There's well over 100. I don't know. There's a confirmed amount of Spider-Man variants in this movie. And I worry that could just, there could be like 30 minutes of this movie where it's like, we're going to go visit this, like it's going to be not a cameo fest, but essentially here's every Spider-Man in existence. I hope that it doesn't lose focus of its main goal. So we'll have to see. I know we do live in a world where it's cool and a lot of people love to see the next big cameo and all that. But we'll see.
It like, they have to feel earned and be meaningful. Like, we left No Way Home and we went, yeah, that was satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and I like that movie more than most people, but not because of the cameos. Those were like, oh, that was cool. Wait, that's it?
I was very upset with what they did with that movie. So, I mean, I was shocked, honestly. But staying on Spider-Verse, I saw today, I think Jake Johnston, who I think voices Peter B. Parker, said there's going to be a Lego universe in the film. I don't know if you saw that or not. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but it's going to get wild. It's going to get crazy. We'll have to see what happens. Soli Streams in here with the super chat. Thank you, Soli, saying, what's up, Chris and Sean? I've been on a kick lately. What are the top 3 best zombie flicks? I'll tell you this, Soli. I'm probably not the best person to answer this because I don't watch a lot of horror. I feel like, Sean, this is a question more catered to you. I don't even know if I'd say Zombieland is the first one. That's a comedy I've watched with my buddies before. That's probably my number one. Other than that, I haven't seen many of the classic ones.
Yeah, so Zombieland, of course, is one of the classics, and then both Dawn of the Deads.
Okay.
They're classics in their own rights. So the original Dawn of the Dead from now 45 years ago, this is one of the movies that invented every trope that every zombie movie goes with. So much of it goes back to the original one George Romero put out. And then you jump forward to Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. It is the same basic plot, but with Zack Snyder aesthetics rather than 70s low budget action film aesthetics. And Zack Snyder, he's always kind of had a very definitive vision for what he's trying to do, and in certain ways kind of changed the formula with faster zombies and things like that, and just kind of gave it some oomph to it. And so I mean, I think those are the obvious ones that come to mind. I mean, that's 3 right there.
Yeah, that's 3.
But like the original Night of the Living Dead, you have to throw that one in there. Has it aged all that well? I mean, you're watching a low budget film from the late 60s. Like, it's late 60s, but it's still in black and white. That's how low budget it was. But it's the movie that invented the entire genre. So
yeah, you got to probably pay respect to that one. It'd be on like the Mount Rushmore of zombie movies.
And 28 Days Later, another great one in there. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff from the last 10 years, but television is where it seems where zombies have taken over.
Yeah, absolutely. With the Walking Dead phenomenon, that was huge when I was like in middle school. Let's see.
I was about 30 when that happened. I'm older than you. This is the second time you've reminded me of this.
Oh man. Let's see. Aiden in here with a question saying, what movie for each of you left you the most disappointed afterwards? I have 2 that come to mind, but I can throw it over to you first if you have any off the top of your head.
So the one that kind of comes to mind since I talk about MCU on my channel, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is very disappointing for me. Batman and Robin was probably the first movie that I was, I'm pretty dumb as an adult. I was even dumber as a kid. And I think that was the first time I went, wait, a movie can be bad? Like, what? Like,
that one's bad.
Like, Batman has ice skates in his boots? What is going on? Like, that one was just, I can't believe what is happening here. And actually, this popped up in my my Facebook histories, X-Men Wolverine Origins. I went to go see it, and I guess I wrote on Facebook, I can't believe how little I enjoyed that film. That's what I wrote when coming out of the theater for that one. So those are a few that immediately come to mind from 3 different decades.
Origins Wolverine I watched when I was a young child, like in the car. Like I bought it from
late
Walmart.
20s for me, yeah. It's about the same.
Yep, keeping it going. It was like a portable DVD player and shit. And I enjoyed it, but I haven't gone back because I just know it's bad. And when in Deadpool 2 and like the post-credit scene when they take care of that, it's amazing. But the 2 times I've been the most just so disappointed walking out of a theater. The first was 2016 Suicide Squad, because at the time the trailers were just amazing to me, and I was like, this cast, this movie's going to be so cool. Jared Leto's Joker is going to be amazing. I just went in, and right when the credits rolled, I looked at my friends and I was like, what was that? And we were just disgusted. And then the other time for me would be, and I don't even want to open this can of worms, but Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. The Last Jedi, it didn't do it for me, but I was like conflicted. But The Rise of Skywalker, I had so much hope, and the trailers yet again sold me. And I went in and I walked out and I was just defeated. I was so visibly defeated walking out at how they just dropped the ball landing that trilogy well. So those are the two I always say, and it'll probably never change. Hopefully Indiana Jones 5 is not added to that list. Hopefully.
Yeah, I was a little delusional on Rise of Skywalker. I didn't turn on it soon enough.
Yeah. It's bad, unfortunately. Speaking of Star Wars, this is from Cobra Guy. Thoughts on Jedi Survivor? I haven't had the chance to play this one yet. I love the first game. I've played that one twice and I think watched the walkthrough. I'm trying to get my Twitch back up and running. I got a PC thing working on, for those wondering. I know you guys ask about the Twitch streams. My goal would be sometime over the summer to do a week where I'd Twitch stream it, and that would be fun. But other than that, I haven't played it, and I've avoided all spoilers. Have you played the first Jedi game?
So I played the first one, and I was probably more mixed on it. There's a bunch of things I liked about it, but I didn't like the like there were several maps where I got deep into it and then got lost.
Yeah.
And so it was like I'm not killing people. This isn't like a quest or a challenge. I don't know where the little cave is or whatever that I'm supposed to walk through. Or
that happened a lot when I would play. Like getting lost was easy in that game.
And then it was that side of things that just like, this is not fun. And then I'd find the adventure and I'd beat people up and it's like, oh cool, that was neat. That's what I want more of this. And so but I've just been so busy recently. I just don't have much time to play video games, and I kind of missed the release date, and then I heard all these rumors of it's very glitchy, it's very buggy, and people are waiting for the patch, and then the patch is 150 gigs, and so I just haven't
for the same reason I haven't either. Like I've just been waiting for the right time to play it. I will, for those wondering, I will play it eventually, and I'm excited because I love the character Cal Kestis. I mean, again, I know a lot of people have said this. I'd love to see him in live action. I think he would be well suited for that. But it'll have to be like the right time. I have to just wait and see. Looking through the chat here, though, the next question, someone says Indy 5 is the most anticipated, and I think Mangold. Yep, I agree. Mangold, I have full faith in him, honestly. Thoughts about the new Meg trailer? Have you been able to check this out yet? I know.
When did it drop? I didn't even know it dropped.
It dropped probably about 30 minutes before 7, so like 6:30 Eastern. I watched it on my phone. I haven't seen the first Meg, but I was like, I'll watch this trailer. It looks pretty. I haven't seen the first Meg. Should I watch it?
It's a movie about a Meg, Meg with Jason Statham and Ruby Rose. My wife loves bad shark movies, and the way the universe played out, they did the Austin press screening for the Meg was on water.
I think I actually remember you posting about that.
Yeah, and it was like I just gotten on the press list. It was like literally brand new that I got connected to this organization, and the first thing they invited me to was, all right, it was the coolest one I've been in for anything. But like you showed up, you got an inner tube, went out on a lake, and then they projected it on this big gigantic screen, and that's a fun way to watch a movie, and it makes a memory that endears the franchise to you.
Yeah, totally. I know what
the
you mean.
movie itself, I talk about Taco Bell movies, cinematic junk food. These, like a Jason Statham battling a dinosaur shark, that's my kind of cinematic junk food. Definitely my wife's version. Like, she likes to watch the actual direct-to-video crap shark movies. Like, she's like, you should check this one out. It's like, or we shouldn't. She wants those ones. So make one with Jason Statham and $150 million and the guy that directed National Treasure. She's all for it.
Yeah. This one looks, even from what I saw in that trailer, it looks like they're going even more like full send than whatever the first one was, which I've only seen the trailers for that one as well, but it looks just like insane. So I'm sure the cheesiness will be turned up to 1,000 there. Speaking of Jason Statham, and this is kind of goes
Texting
into
my wife about this so that she knows that there's something out there.
I think there's a Expendables 4 coming out this year.
Oh yeah, I know a guy that worked on it.
Oh really? So it is, because I watched the Expendables movies for the first time ever like a month ago in March, and because I'm on a Stallone kick, I got on it after I rewatched Rocky. I watched all the Rambo movies for the first time.
I've been on a Stallone kick since 1990.
I know you're a big Stallone guy, so I had to bring it up. But I watched like all the Rambo movies for the first time. I watched Cliffhanger. I watched Cobra.
They announced a sequel.
I saw that, and that was actually one of my favorite ones. Cliffhanger was one of my favorite ones in the Stallone filmography I watched through. I still have to check out a few more, but
did you see Demolition Man?
I haven't seen that one yet. It's on the list still. Yeah,
that one it's like social commentary that if anything is more true today than it was when it came out. But so he did a Cliffhanger and Demolition Man, and the kind of a little bit of a mini little revival, and I would guess those would be two of the ones you'd like a little bit more. They just like Cobra is very much a generic.
Yeah, Cobra wasn't really my thing. It was fine.
I'm not crazy about Cobra, but like Cliffhanger, love Cliffhanger, and then Demolition Man. Like it's funny, it has Sandra Bullock in it and Wesley Snipes. So it's like Sandra Bullock a year before she was in Speed. So it was like she didn't take off from it, but you watch it and it's like classic, fun young Sandra Bullock. But Expendables 4, they shot it in fall of 2021.
Okay.
And a guy that's a subscriber of mine was like a PA. And he was like, he's like sending me pictures of him with Jason Statham. And he's like, don't post these on the internet. Like, I don't know the context under which I would do that, but he was like showing me stuff. He's like, you can't show these yet. And then like a week later, Jason Statham would post a picture of himself in that same location, and he'd be like, "Now you can post." I was like, once again, I don't know how to, I don't know how to post pictures of other people, but but it was like I saw, and it wasn't necessarily interesting stuff. It's like a submarine or whatever it was. But I saw it before anyone else because this guy was messaging him to me, and so I don't have any scoops that he's told me that would be anything interesting except to say that they shot it a year and a half ago.
Wow!
And so I was actually surprised that the release date wasn't until fall of this year. But
I guess my biggest question as a newcomer is: will it be R or PG-13? Do you know that, or has that been announced? Do we know?
I don't know. I haven't looked that up.
Because I think the third was PG-13 to a fault, I believe. That was I really didn't enjoy that one at all. The first one was my favorite. 2, I was like, this is still fine. But the third one, I was like, I actually hated it. I didn't like the third one at all.
But my buddy Glenn Powell's in that.
Glenn Powell is in that. You're right about that. There are a lot of young actors like that. Liam Hemsworth's in the second one.
So Glenn Powell went to the same high school as me, and so they actually did an advanced screening at the theater right by where our high school is at, and he was at it. And
pre Top Gun Maverick, well before, right?
This is Expendables 3, so this is
decade before, almost.
like 8 years ago or whatever it was. And so I was able to get into that, and so I was at an early screening of Expendables 3 that Glenn Powell was at. He was in the other theater. I wasn't in the theater that he was at. And I don't know him, but I know several people that do know him from when he was in grade school.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. So the next question is from Ryan Smith. Ryan, how you doing, man? I don't know if you've ever been asked these on your live streams, but this is something that's on it's like a staple of my live stream. It's called Keep, Watch, Burn. Okay. And so usually it's with films we've seen. So it's like, I keep this one, I can watch whenever I want. I watch this one once, I'm done. I burn this, I never see it. So this would be sight unseen. So we haven't seen these. So I guess it's based on anticipation. So it's tougher. It's tougher. Do you want me to go first?
I could say right off the bat, I'm burning Barbie.
Okay.
That's the easiest decision of my entire life. Burn Barbie.
Yeah.
My test screening guy has seen Barbie also.
Wow.
He's also seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
This guy's seen it all.
He hasn't seen Mission Impossible, which I'm sure is breaking his heart, because I'm very much sure he's excited for it. It gets pretty tough. Based off my current anticipation, I have what's the difference between keep and watch?
So keep, again, it's more difficult like this because it's based on anticipation. Keep, the assumption would be it's a movie that you enjoy enough to rewatch forever. Watch is like a one and done. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's really tough when you don't know what Spider-Verse
Exactly.
2 is. I feel like we know exactly what Mission Impossible 7 is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be awesome, but I know what it's going to be. But I don't know what Across the Spider-Verse is going to be. So I guess I'll keep Mission Impossible because I want my Blu-ray collection set to be complete.
I have the same one as you. I'm keeping Mission Impossible. That's my second or third most anticipated of the year. I'll watch Spider-Verse, see what it's about, and I'll burn Barbie. That being said, I'm still pretty excited for Barbie. The trailer made me laugh hard, but compared to those two movies, again, one of them had to bite the dust, so it's going to be that one.
As someone with 2 daughters under the age of 10, that I don't think I can take them to see a Barbie movie, I'm just resentful of that, of like, what? Why would you make a Barbie movie that's not for my kids who are the perfect age for a Barbie movie? Like, I just don't get it. Like, what?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, it's going to, I mean, to my interpretation, it's almost like an edgy PG-13 comedy, right? Like, kind of like something that would come out in the 2000s almost.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know. It's weird. I'm sure it'll still do well, but I don't think that Barbie or Oppenheimer will do as well as people are making them out to be. I don't think either of them even really come close to $1 billion. That's just my opinion, though. A lot of people are like, oh, Barbie's doing $1 billion. I'm like, no way. That's just me, though. We'll see.
I'm not. Those movies aren't making $1
billion. Speaking of movies that could do $1 billion, do you think Transformers: Rise of the Beasts is going to be great? This is from NHCS Racing Network.
My test screening guy has also seen that one.
Oh wow! He's seen.
So you're pulling up all the movies. Apparently, yes, he's seen more than I realized. I feel like the franchise it just doesn't have the energy that it once did, and I don't know. Like, maybe this one will recapture it. Maybe the problem is that because I felt like Bumblebee was easily one of the best ones, and then it made by far the least money. That was weird. And so then it seems like this one's kind of a return to big, gigantic, noisy, loud, tons of Transformers. And so for me, I feel like that's a step backwards from Bumblebee, but it's probably going to mean a step more towards box office success.
I gave up on Transformers after Age of Extinction, which I think was the 4th movie.
The one shot near where I live.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of movies where it's...
Yeah, the stuff, Mark Wahlberg's house is, all that is in Taylor. That's like 5 miles down the road from where I'm at.
A lot of cool stuff was shot near where you live. That's awesome. A
lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre films were shot right around here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That movie, I was, again, sorry to keep aging everybody here, but I was like 14 in 2014, so I saw it and I was like, this is awful. But like the trilogy to me, I like the first 3, I was like, these are awesome. Like when the 3rd one came out, it was an event to go to the movie theater for that. And so I never saw the 5th one, and because of that, I never saw Bumblebee. Now I've heard really good things about Bumblebee from some friends, and they're like, it's better than the Mark Wahlberg ones and better than some of the other Michael Bay ones. So we'll see if this is good. The Transformers action looks really awesome. And
there's some cool shots in there.
Yeah, like with Optimus Prime, especially like near, I don't know what part of the movie it's gonna be. I assume near the end, like a full-on battle. So I hope that's like a prolonged, cool, like final battle type of scene. But I don't know. My fear with those movies is always the human characters. It's my big issue with the Godzilla movies. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Bumblebee. I think I have that as my favorite. I haven't rewatched him since it came out 4 or 5 years ago. I'm pretty sure it's #1 on my ranking.
Okay.
Because it's a classic boy and his dog story, girl and her dog story. It's very much about a character that you care about and not just stupid Michael Bay jokes.
Yeah. Well, I'll watch that one. I'll watch them all before the new one, probably.
But in 2014, I was 33 years old.
Oh, man. We have a super chat here from Ben. Thank you, Ben. The Boys Season 4 just wrapped filming recently. What did you guys think of the first 3 seasons, and what are you hoping for in Season 4? Have you watched The Boys?
Watched the first 2 seasons, and the first a couple episodes of season 3.
Mm-hmm. Are you a fan, or did you kind of fall off with it, or?
Um, I wouldn't say it a falling off. It was more. There's a lot of things I needed to watch, and The Boys is obviously intense. That's the whole
Oh,
concept.
extremely,
Is
yeah.
it's just like it's in your face, and like season 3 kicks off.
It's one of the most disturbing. Yeah, season
Woo!
3 of that show, like, because I've seen all Game of Thrones, and I thought that was like out there. The Boys is the most probably brutal thing I've ever seen in media.
Woo! So, and I was like, oh man, I'll finally be able to do a ranking of The Boys. So I'll rewatch through all of it. And I was like, I'm just not up for it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife somehow watched the first 2 seasons with me. I don't know how that happened, but she did. In like she had no interest in season 3, and then I saw the beginning of season 3, and I was like, well, that's a good thing that she didn't watch this with me. She wouldn't have liked that very much. But so back 15 years ago, I remember one of my friends describing The Boys to me, the actual graphic novel, and he was describing it from a negative standpoint of like all of the sexual harassment and assault and brutality and deconstruction of heroes, and it sounded like something I would be that interested in. So actually, when I first put her on the first episode to watch it several years back, it was almost ironically, or like I was doing it to mess with my wife a little bit because she was there, and then we got enough invested in it that we watched it. But it's just it's brutal, but it's very clever, and it usually feels earned with what it's doing. It doesn't cheapen things. It actually plays out the implications of the harshness. So for that, the same reason that I think that it's good, it's the same reason that it's a show that I have to be in the mood to watch it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. In terms of season 4, one of the things I'm the most excited for, well, I won't spoil any like plot patterns in the show, but I think that I said 4 needs to be the final season. I think the writers have said they want to go 5. I fear it's going to continue to become a little repetitive with this whole like, oh, we got to just do the same thing. I'm not going to say too much, but same like sort of ideas each season. But Jeffrey Dean Morgan is cast in the 4th season, and I'm excited for that to see what he brings to the table. I don't know what character he's playing. I don't know what role, but I've seen on his Instagram, and there was reported Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's a great actor, so I'm excited for that. And maybe they'll surprise us in 4 as the last season, because I don't want it to go too long and become repetitive. That's a big fear I have with a lot of TV shows. Ending when you know it's your time is like the best.
And thinking about your show as what's the story that we have to tell, rather than how long can we keep going, how many seasons, or we got renewed, let's do another. Let's keep going as long as we're renewed. Like you could just tell with the shows where they went, this is how much story we have, therefore we're going to tell this much story. Those shows tend to have great finales, and then the shows that don't do that, people look back and they say that you look for the point in time where it went off the rails.
Yeah, so knowing when to end is awesome. That's what the show Barry is currently doing, and I love that. It's on HBO. It's the Bill Hader show. Its final season has a few episodes left, so I'm glad that one's not overextending its day. This is from Frozen Things Studios. Favorite Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 song? Mine is Creep and Dog Days Are Over. What's your favorite song from that soundtrack?
I mean, obviously, Creep is a Radiohead classic. I don't know that I'm as fond of the acoustic version. It fits the movie and the scene, but I don't know that that's the version that I've ever gone to historically in the past. So I don't know if I would go with that one as a Guardians of the Galaxy song. I loved the inclusion of Space Hogs in the meantime in the trailer, and so that's the one where my brain naturally gravitates towards. I've added that into my playlists and everything since that trailer dropped, and it's stuck with me since then. Real nice use of Beastie Boys.
Oh yeah, that's up there for me, because that song was on Guitar Hero back in the day. I played that growing up, and I was like, that was like my introduction to it, and I was like, this song's awesome. So that was like the first Beastie Boys song I probably ever heard, and it's perfect, with the scene that it accompanies. Dog Days Are Over is up there for me. Just again, that's one of my favorite uses of music in the MCU. But in terms of like song, because I've been listening to the soundtrack, a bunch of these are pretty much all new to me. Since You've Been Gone, the one they used in I think the second trailer, that one rocks. I like that one a lot. So great soundtrack. I think I actually prefer it to the first two, which is apparently a hot take online. They're all great. They're all pretty even to me.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that. I'm staking one conversation I've had. I said a lot of people. It's one conversation I've had, but they said it feels different, which it's supposed to because it's from the Zune that has the 90s and the zeros, whereas the first ones were from mixtapes from his mother, which is like early 80s and 70s. And so it feels different, but for that same reason, then it can appeal to a whole other audience of people. But I think like James Gunn actually really knows music, and it has that true mixtape aesthetic of the past, of thinking through songs, and people have rules for their playlists. And I feel like Taika Waititi tried to do that, but he doesn't have the same vast knowledge of music. And so it's like Led Zeppelin, right, the most popular hard rock band of the 70s. And then Guns N' Roses, right, the most overplayed 80s hard rock band. Like these are the most obvious choices rather than like feeling like a deep knowledge and picking the perfect songs. And that's like James Gunn, they feel like great playlists.
Absolutely. And there are three playlists, 3 for 3 on the soundtracks that I like have discovered a lot of new music that I would not have listened to normally because of James Gunn. So he definitely knows what he's doing. And it's cool like to learn all these songs. Like the one you mentioned, In the Meantime, I had never, for whatever reason, I hadn't heard that song. And my friend, he's a moderator here, Starco Kruger, was like going crazy texting me. And I think I also went on Twitter and I saw you were pretty hyped. That song was used as well.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, my wife hates Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Never wants to watch it ever again. Her favorite song is Brandy, Ego's favorite song. Mm-hmm. And one more reason that she resents the film, that Ego would claim her favorite song. Mm-hmm. But once again, a classic example of James Gunn pulling the song out that like I didn't think anything of it, but for my wife it's really special, and he found it, plucked it, put it in his movie.
Yeah, that's a song I heard a lot growing up. My parents both love that one, so it's a great one.
And my parents were my dad was a big Beatles person, so having George Harrison's "My Sweet Lord" when they pull it into Ego's Planet, or I guess Ego Him, however you phrase that. That to me was like, hey, George Harrison.
Yeah, the Guardians 2 soundtrack's almost my favorite. It's really, really hard. I made that video, that short the other day, and I was like, this is tough, and one was at the bottom for me, but it's like that. It's not a bad soundtrack by any means. It's just how much do I not rewatch but re-listen to the songs, and one had the least that I listened to the most. So it is what it is. It falls that way. But we'll do a little speed round here, like answer 3 or 4 fairly quickly.
That's the hardest thing anyone's ever asked me to do. Answer a question quickly.
This is from Ryan. Jurassic Park or Back to the Future?
They're both in my top 10 favorite movies. I honestly don't remember which one was higher on my top 10 favorites list.
It's tough.
I'm going to go with Back to the Future because I think it's a more perfect film. There's flaws with Jurassic Park.
I go Back to the Future as well, and the reason being is rewatchability. I don't go back to Jurassic Park as much. Back to the Future, I try and watch that one, I'd say once, maybe even twice a year, the trilogy. It's just, I love it. This one's from Jason Cruz, the man.
And I saw Back to the Future in a theater about a month ago. There are all these new movies out my wife hasn't seen yet, and we saw Back to the Future was playing in a local theater. All these new movies. I don't want to. Let's go see Back to the Future.
I missed Return of the Jedi. I wanted to go see that one so bad, and it was a busy weekend, and I didn't get to it. But I saw they're releasing Raiders. Mm-hmm. I will be sat in the theater for that one. I'm excited. But Jason Cruz, the man always here in these stream show and support, says, how excited are you guys for Oppenheimer? I'm very excited. Nolan is I don't know where he places on my all-time director list, but he's high. I mean, he's one of the best for a reason. So I'm excited for it. But I will say, me and my friend have talked about this. It is weird that it's coming out in July. It seems more like a fall, like award season type movie. It's like we'll go see Barbie and we'll see Mission Impossible, and then this movie about the nuclear bomb. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean that's Nolan likes July. I mean, you look at the release dates of all of his movies. As long as he's had power, they're July, and so that's what that is. But I mean, Nolan's a top 5 director for me. So easily, anything that he puts out, he still has so much trust. They're instantly some of my most anticipated of the year. The specific subject matter isn't as exciting for me as when I see he's doing something like Tenet. That to me, like, oh, another thing kind of like Inception. That to me is the most exciting stuff. Because I look at something like Oppenheimer and I go, that feels like a movie that a different person could make. It might turn out to be the movie that finally gets Nolan his Oscar. I would love that.
That's what
But I see Oppenheimer trailer and like sort of the movie that you could watch the trailer and see any number of a prestige director's name showing up at the end of it.
I hear what you're saying there, and I worry about its success at the box office because of it's sandwiched. I mean, the summer is just packed. We're back to like full movie schedules, so there's really like no breathing room where a movie like I think the biggest one we're going to see is right now with Guardians. It's got about a week cushion until Fast X comes out, but then it's like every week from Fast X till the end of July, movie. I think Barbie's going to dominate it at the box office just because people are going to want to go see it. But I still think Oppenheimer will do well. It might track similar to Dunkirk. I'd have to go back and look what Dunkirk did. But
and Dunkirk did like 500 million global. That for a movie like that, that's a great number. And I think it was like 100 million budget. So that's solid numbers. That's probably good. I think Dunkirk is the point of reference.
Yeah.
It still has, it appeals probably to an older audience. You're not going to get like a bunch of 14-year-olds like, let me go rush up. Probably not going to happen. And then you're going to get the Nolanites showing up for it, of course.
Yeah, they show up.
And if it gets good reviews, I mean, which I would assume it will, it'll.
Long legs, possibly. It's got the Haunted Mansion, I think, the week after, and then a few weeks till Blue Beetle, I want to say. So we'll see. This is from Sam Does Stuff. Guardians 3 or No Way Home? I think a lot of people share the same sentiment recently, but I adore No Way Home. When I first saw it, I was riding this wave. I had it 3 on my MCU ranking. It's now 7. That's not that big of a drop. People act like that's crazy, and I hate the movie now. I still really love it. But Guardians 3, I said this in my review. I said it pretty much immediately after my out-of-theater reaction. Like, I think it's probably the better-made movie than No Way Home. But No Way Home gave me something that I will cherish for the rest of my life. All 3 Spider-Man swinging live action. Sorry, there's a gnat flying around my room. But I go Guardians 3 over No Way Home.
Yeah, I think you phrased it pretty well there, that No Way Home is like a special gift to Spider-Man fans. And it delivers something really well. Is it a great actual like story and movie? A boy wants to get into college, so he convinces his impulsive sorcerer buddy to cast a spell without talking about the parameters. That's not the best setup for a film. Does it lead to something awesome? Yes, it does.
Oh, yeah. It's so sweet.
And so when you look at Guardians 3, it's a better made movie that also pulls big emotions out of you. It doesn't have something as special as, wow, all 3 Spider-Man, and they didn't put it in the marketing. I mean, kind of the worst kept secret. We all knew it was going to happen, kind of, but then they never confirmed it. And so that was special. So Guardians doesn't have that. But at the same time, closing out a trilogy in such a satisfying way, that's special. These are supposed to be quick rounds, and I'm rambling on again.
No,
I don't do speed rounds.
We can take our time. We're going back to one. This one should be a little easier for you because the concept
Okay.
you saw once, and these are all movies that have come out. And there's literally a gnat flying around my room. I'm swatting at it like I'm a Superman or something.
This is easy for me. I got this one.
Okay, keep, watch, burn. Christopher Nolan movies. We've got The Prestige, the Dark Knight trilogy, which feels like cheating because it's 3 movies compared to 1, and then a Dunkirk. So keep one. You can watch that whenever you want. Burn. You never see it, and you never see it again. And watch. You get to watch it once. That's it.
Keep Dark Knight trilogy. Watch Dunkirk. Burn. Prestige.
Okay. I'm gonna keep the Dark Knight trilogy as well. I'm gonna watch The Prestige because I love that movie. That's actually my second favorite Nolan movie. Like, I remember my neighbor showed that to me growing up. I was like, this movie's insane. I go back to that one every few years, and I will burn Dunkirk, though I still really like Dunkirk. Are you kind of iffy on The Prestige in terms of like overall Nolan ranking?
Yeah, it's pretty low on my ranking.
Okay.
I mean, for me, I don't think he has a bad movie. So the worst is a B minus. And I don't remember what it was again, but like The Dark Knight Rises might be at the bottom of my list, which I just told you I want to keep it. So I think it's a flawed film without any excuses of budget or anything like that. And Tenet's pretty low, and then Prestige is kind of in that category following.
Yeah.
I've never been crazy about The Prestige, and people have always been like, what? How can did it not blow your mind? Like, it did not blow my mind. Memento blew my mind.
Memento's a good one. Yeah, that's one that I've seen once and I need to watch again. It is a little lower on my ranking though, but I feel like he hasn't made a bad movie.
How dare you?
Yeah, I gotta delete everything. Delete my channel.
Well,
man.
I'm gonna come and hack you and delete for this insult.
Oh man, it's funny because people will comment that.
Right. That's right. How dare you put this movie at the bottom?
Yep.
And I think some of what that comes from is they see a ranking and they attribute the same emotion that they give to their last place to your ranking, that assume you have that same emotional distaste, and it's not that. I would give a positive to every single one of these movies, whereas they think that Interstellar is the most pretentious, stupid movie of all time that was a waste of their time. They assign that exaggerated emotion to me putting The Prestige at number 9, number 8 on my list, which for me that means it's a B. It's good. It didn't fully come together. I didn't like the characters. I disliked the characters. Not that they're poorly written. They're just jerks. So I just didn't care. But of course it has the Nolan craft to it. And it goes, but how dare you? It's good. It's good. I just don't. It didn't do it for me the way that like Memento did when I was, when I first watched that one.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because we're currently in like the MCU ranking time period where we're all posting our MCU rankings pretty much. And it's funny, like every time I post it, like there are 32 movies now, and the fact that a movie's at 20, people think I hate that movie. It's like there's 32 movies to choose from here. Like if a movie, I still enjoy my 20, 21, 22. I enjoy most of them actually. There's only a few I really dislike.
And I mean that's the reason why the MCU is the biggest movie franchise of all time. Because they had an incredible hot streak where they had so few misses. Like, that's the actual general consensus, is that they were very consistently making good movies and quite a few great movies in there, too. Which means that you're comparing a lot of good things to other good things.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's I always say this, I make a joke every now and then in my MCU ranking, like, every few years, like eventually we'll get up in the 50s one day. 50 MCU movies. It's just going to be insane. So we'll see. This one's from Jason. We have a few super chats to catch up on. Jason says, what are your guys' favorite comfort movies? So I guess, the one movie that's like your comfort movie. I have to think on this one for a sec, but I have a few that come to mind.
I don't know how other people define comfort movie. I think, what's the movie that I put on the TV as I'm going to bed? Like, all right, I'm not watching this because I need to watch something, but what's the thing that I put on? Like, I'm just comfortable with it.
Yep.
If I fall asleep, if I stay awake, all options are good here. Jean-Claude Van Damme tournament fighter movies. Bloodsport, kickboxer.
That's a genre I have not explored, I know. I'm ashamed to say. But
classic cinema. I'm sure they're in Martin Scorsese's top 10.
yeah, yeah.
They're a set of films that either that's your thing or you're like, oh. I had a friend of mine actually officiated his wedding. And so he messages me. He watched, I guess, Bloodsport out of the blue like 2 months ago. And he texts me, "This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Worst acting, worst writing." It's like, yeah, but Jean-Claude Van Damme jumped into the air and did the splits and kicked a guy in the face 3 times.
Is that the movie where he like punches a snake, or is that a different movie?
Have you not seen any of these these Van Damme films?
No Van Damme films except Expendables 2.
Wow. See,
Yeah.
he punches the snake in Hard Target.
Hard Target.
It's a rendition of The Most Dangerous Game, where Lance Hendrickson and Arnold Vosloo, the Mummy, basically recruit homeless veterans to have rich people hunt them.
Wow.
And so then Van Damme kind of gets wrapped up into this deal where someone's looking for her dad who died in this process, and Van Damme is borderline homeless guy helping her track them down, and then he becomes the hard target that they were not expecting. And so then they're like on the run and running in the bayou, and so he has to punch out a snake, and he like wraps it around something as a trap that so it's
I could see myself like binging some of those, because I did get on that Stallone kick. I could see that happening one day. Like over a weekend, I watch a decent amount of Van Damme movies.
So Hard Target, the one where he punches a snake, is directed by John Woo. So
Okay.
it's actually directed by a great director who, that was his debut in Hollywood. And because he didn't speak very much English, Sam Raimi was actually on set just in case this guy from Hong Kong couldn't make a movie. Now, Sam Raimi didn't. Yeah, and I didn't even know some of this stuff until recently, where it's like, where you look at some of the producers, and I was like, well, Sam Raimi, what does Sam Raimi have to do with this movie? And it was legitimately, they just needed someone there just in case things fell through. And then it didn't. It's widely regarded as one of Van Damme's best films. And, it's an early 90s action thriller. There's some stuff that it was kind of ahead of its time because it did a lot of the slow-mo stuff that became popular later on with The Matrix and even Zack Snyder, and they were doing it in Hard Target. And people were like, what? Why are they slowing down, and why is he like flipping open? What's going on here? And then that became the popular thing 5 years later. But Hard Target is actually, I would just say that's a good action thriller. When you look at like Bloodsport and Kickboxer, they're martial arts movie classics, but they're very much genre films.
Okay.
They're ones that there's a lot more stuff. You're like, what is this crap? Like, what's going on here? Actually, Forrest Whitaker is in Bloodsport as a side character.
Oscar winner.
Yeah, like an Oscar as a side character. But you actually, like Hard Target, you have like the only person in it that can't really act is Van Damme. But it's also peak Van Damme doing all the stuff he was great at, and he'd gotten better as an actor by the time that he was in it. Whereas like Bloodsport, no one's an actor except Forrest Whitaker.
In terms of John Woo, I've seen MI2, I think he did, and then I watched this movie in school called The Killer. I want to say it was with the
Chow
actor,
Yun-fat.
Yeah, he's from the third Pirates of the Caribbean, right? I believe that's what I know him from. So I've seen that movie. It was pretty good. So I may actually.
Where did you watch The Killer?
It was in school. I took like one of the film classes, and they were like, watch this one for this type of cinema. And I was like, okay. I actually, it was one of the more enjoyable ones I watched.
Yeah. So basically, that was the Heroic Bloodshed. Because you took a class on it, because you would know. But Heroic Bloodshed coming out of Hong Kong, so at the same time you had Jackie Chan doing what he did, you had John Woo doing these like underground criminal films, and so it was A Better Tomorrow, and then The Killer, and then Hard Boiled was kind of.
I've heard good things about that one.
And all three of these are Chow Yun-fat led films.
Okay.
With that dynamic action that's the style that the Wachowskis then took and then put in The Matrix. And so they took the wire fu of Jet Li films, the gun fu of The Killer, and then the plot of Terminator and the aesthetics of anime and made The Matrix.
Yeah, I've only seen the first Matrix. I never watched the sequels because I heard they were bad, but I will one day. I'll check them out one day. I mean, I've heard they're all right.
Maybe you shouldn't.
Just keep it that way.
Yeah, maybe just stay right
Yeah.
there. Just
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, this is a case where maybe that's the case. But the killer, like hard boiled is like, let's take that and streamline the plot and just have insane action sequences and all the cool stuff in Mission Impossible 2, even some of the cool stuff in Hard Target. He was just ripping himself off. Like he repeated a bunch of these beats involving motorcycles and stuff. It all is in Hard Boiled.
Man, and I may have to add that to the list.
And he did a video game about 20 years ago called Stranglehold. And they didn't have the rights to Hard Boiled. And so basically they made what the sequel to Hard Boiled would be, and they just changed out all the character names. And so it's like a third-person shooter where you could go at a bullet time and slow things down. And so you're like playing in a John Woo film. But anyway, I was reading about that. Now I'm just saying things I was reading about recently.
We're nerding out. This is another super chat. We can answer this quick because we kind of just...
Wait, did you say what your comfort movie is? I went on this insane rabbit trail where we're talking about... Did I take over? Is it just me in here now? What just happened? All right. Well, if it's just me in here, I guess I can...
We're back.
Did I ever leave? We're not back. You're back. You're just a bit... I didn't know what to do. I was like, I was about to like have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah. I always warn the guests in the pre-thing. I'm like, something's going to happen at some point. We made it an hour and 10 minutes. But
yeah.
I swiped too far to the left and it just fully booted me out. It's weird when it does that. Weird. But when it does do that, I kind of lose the chat a bit. So
But your comfort film.
My comfort film. So I have two. Crazy Stupid Love.
Okay.
That movie, me and my girlfriend, I could watch the movie right now. It just makes me feel happy and relaxed. And then this one, a lot of people will probably disagree with, but comfort, and it's our personal preference.
Human Centipede? Is it Human Centipede?
It's actually Saw 6. No, I'm playing.
Oh, of course. I think we all love that one. Yeah. Put it on the background.
It's the 2011 Footloose, the remake.
Okay.
That is we enjoy it, and that's Miles Teller's awesome in the movie, so it's a fun one, and it takes place in Georgia, I think, or in the movie, and they filmed some of it in Atlanta, so that's cool. But it's a weird, like, guilty pleasure type movie. That's the one. So Footloose, 2011, and Crazy Stupid Love. To answer this one real quick, my answer is Volume 3. It's the most different, and it's got the type of music I would listen to like on my own outside of like a soundtrack playlist. So I would probably go with Volume 3, but they're all great.
I don't know. I'd have to listen to them to make some comparative statement that's definitive. Like the first one, I have the most nostalgia for and have been listening to for 9 years. Mm-hmm. I'm not as crazy about Volume 2 as a film, so just inherently I put it a little bit lower. And then I liked Guardians 3, so I like kind of by default put it in the middle spot. But even through our conversations, I'm wondering if maybe I should give all three of them a listen and do something I don't do very often, and I guess steal one of your ideas and do a soundtrack ranking.
It's fun. I highly recommend doing that.
I did like one on rank the Frozen 2 songs, whatever, and it did really well. It actually did better than the one where I talked about the movies, and then I haven't followed that up. Like, I didn't learn from my successes. But yeah, I think maybe I'm gonna steal from you.
That's totally you should. It's a fun video. Continuing on with some super chats here, and again, a lot of the chat when it booted me out there, guys, it reset the chat a little, so I'm way further up. So I did miss a bunch of questions. Again, I apologize for that. But this is from Dylan saying, "Who do you think should play Johnny in Fantastic Four for the MCU?" I have a few, two in particular. I would love to see big Outer Banks fan, and I don't even care. That's me and my guilty pleasure show, Outer Banks. Rudy Penkow, who plays JJ, I think he's got the young sort of, I call it like a Tom Holland type attitude where he can be a younger guy. He's got the swag to play this role, and I want him to go younger with it. My other pick would be Dacre Montgomery, who I believe was the lead in the 2017 Power Rangers film, and then he also was Billy from Stranger Things. That's what I know him from. He could own that role. Of course, I love Joe Keery, but I think that he's a little too old now, and they might want to go extra young with that. But have you thought about your Fantastic Four fan cast?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with someone too old, Glenn Powell, because he went to
Okay.
the same high school as me.
Mhm.
But if you're thinking about a guy plays cocky but likable cocky, he just did it in Top Gun
He
Maverick. He can do
definitely
it.
could own that role.
So as long as you age up all of our Fantastic Four people, you could potentially do that. Younger
I
people, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
So I've had Dacre Montgomery on several of my fan casts in the past for things. He feels like one of those guys that like Hollywood. What are you doing? Why aren't
Yeah.
you? He's right
He's a great
here.
actor.
He hasn't done a ton of things, and people have really liked him in the things that he has done. Um, so I'd be cool with that one. But yeah, I'm going with Glenn Powell to support
I've
the
yeah,
Westwood Warriors.
I've heard a lot of really good, or one of the best fan casts for Glenn Powell is Cyclops in the MCU, which
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. So I'm very down for that. Um, let's see. Burnt Toast says, "Are there any movies you have a bias towards, and why?" I guess so. The question's like if any movies that we like that are bad, or movies that were like, oh, like for you, maybe a movie that was filmed near your hometown. That would be an example, I guess. I'm trying to think of one for me, a bias towards. That's tough.
I think it's I'd have to understand what the definition of bias is, because
Yeah.
bias is normally interpreted as a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of us have a different perspective. All of us are moved and resonate with different things. So, like
Yeah.
my history, I even the journey about how I got into YouTube is that I formed a drinking problem, was unemployed and was in rehab, and while unemployed in rehab, I started a YouTube channel. So like the way back, the Ben Affleck film from a couple years back is about someone with a drinking problem on their way back. You can call that a bias, but it's really a story that I just resonate with. There
Yeah.
was a movie that came out. Well, it's from Daniel Destin Cretton, director of Shang-Chi, called The Glass Castle, and it's a story about this very dysfunctional father, and has Brie Larson in it, and he does a bunch of things that are very clearly negligent and abusive. And I grew up in a household that specific nature of things was not remotely similar to what's in the film. But there was the nature of the story is that it's telling the story about this father who's clearly negligent, abusive, in almost a nostalgic way, where people have a fondness for their childhood, even though they know it was traumatic and um, toxic, abusive. I have similar thoughts about my own childhood, where my father was an alcoholic. There's several incidents that, as a grown up, I realized were abuse. I didn't think that when I was a child. As a grown up, I realized that. And I watched that movie and connected with it on a way that I don't have it with many stories, because I felt like it captured an emotion and gave me a language for my childhood experience, nostalgia for something that was actually bad that I'd never had before. And so I'm very appreciative for that. I had it in my top 10 of 2017. My good friend Rachel Reviews has it in her bottom 10 of 2017. She's like, this story is it's romanticizing abuse. Now you could say, is it bias for me to have my take on the film? Maybe. I think it captured something that it's tough to resonate with or understand what the movie's doing if you don't have that shared nostalgia for something that you know is bad.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like you can even hear that language. What does it even like mean? Like I have all sorts of fond memories of my childhood. And I used to tell these stories, like there were funny stories about the time my dad hit my sister and I with a 2x4, and it was a funny story we would tell. And then I told this story to someone when I was 23 and I was working with teenagers at a church, and no one was laughing at my funny story about my dad hitting me with a 2x4 when I was 10 years old. And I paused and I thought about the story and I went, oh, if any one of these children had told me this story, I would be legally obligated to go to the police. And
Yeah.
I just told it to them about my childhood as a funny anecdote.
Mm-hmm.
You go, oh, well, that's a weird, complex emotion about that story of my childhood. Is that bias towards the glass castle of capturing that? Is it bias towards the way back? That's not the word that I would use, but you could possibly use it that way. Anyway, I just went into therapy mode, counseling session. Thank you for listening to my traumatic childhood stories.
In terms of mine, this is a super silly answer.
You're not going to be vulnerable and share your most painful moments of your life?
Well, to some, this movie might be painful. Star Wars prequels, for me, I again, I had the Star Wars toys. We're doing the age thing again. I was 2 or 3 in 2002 when Attack of the Clones came out. And so I was hyped for Attack of the Clones. I had the VHS tapes of the prequels, the first 2, because Resistance hadn't come out, and so I am biased towards the Phantom Menace. I had the toys. I would pause the movie and set up the lightsaber duels as they happen to reenact with the scene. So I am very biased towards the prequels, and I think that's a fair answer. I'm biased because I have fond memories from my childhood of playing with these toys and loving it.
That's probably a better interpretation of the question than where I went with it. So I'll go Bloodsport. That was the first R-rated movie I ever saw. Mm-hmm. So why is it my comfort food movie? So the first time my buddies and I were like, oh, let's watch a rated R movie. And it was Bloodsport. It was summer 1989, and I guess his parents had rented it. And so they went to bed, and we watched Jean-Claude Van Damme kick people in the face.
Yeah. Can't go wrong. Another super chat from 123 Rock Fan. What underrated song would you choose to be in Stranger Things season 5 so it could have more success on the charts, like Kate Bush's "Running Up That Hill"? I obviously adore Stranger Things, and the soundtracks they pick are perfect. However, I don't know if I am qualified to pick an underrated song for them to put in Stranger Things, because I don't have the, I guess, expansive knowledge of music at that time period as much. I can go to my playlist and hunt if you have an answer.
I think it's a really difficult question to answer off the spot, because it is, hey, what song from 1986?
Yeah,
that's really good, but that people don't remember. Those aren't as, the stuff that is in popular culture is the stuff that would disqualify itself from the question. So,
I'm looking up 1986 songs, but it's going to show up there. Songs. And 1986 songs.
Right, like the ones that you would...
the song Venus from 1986. I don't know if that's already been in it, but that's in Remember the Titans, and I think it's in a movie I've watched recently. That song would be cool, but it would never... it would have to be like a background song. I don't know if it would have that much of a meaty role like Running Up That Hill. So this is a tough one. Yeah.
Like my brain goes towards... because of my own musical interests and things like that, towards like the punk rock scene of the 80s. But I don't have a song that comes to mind that would fit the time frame. That's the other one where it gets really tricky, because you're like, what is a song that these kids would be listening to in 1986 if we're going for a deep cut? That's not like that. That's why that Kate Bush thing was so impressive, that they gave her a #1 hit 35 years later, because that doesn't happen. Whatever songs were like the great ones, they've been discovered already. Like it's like you can't understate the insanity of, like, if you're Kate Bush, your income went up 100-fold because they put your song in Stranger Things, and 1 million people listened to it on Spotify and bought it on iTunes or whatever. Like, it just doesn't happen.
So hard. Yeah, and I think the same thing happened. Obviously, Metallica, already massive, but like any song put in Stranger Things, Master of Puppets, huge, just had like a big burst in streaming, and whatever they put on Stranger Things 5, it's going to be huge, even if it already is.
Like my wife, she's never been a metalhead. She plays an obsessive amounts of Fortnite, though, and they put Master of Puppets in as an emote. My wife, because of Stranger Things, has the emote from Master of Puppets in Fortnite, and what she tries to do before she launches to the island, she plays Master of Puppets with the emote, and you can join in. It's a collaborative one, and like that's what she does because it was on Stranger Things.
Yeah, Stranger Things right now I think is the most like influential piece of media out there. It's my favorite show. I love it. I'm currently rewatching it yet again in season 4, and I'm just so excited for season 5. Whatever they put in it, the songs again, because of even TikTok. Like TikTok had a huge impact on the songs from that. You know, the people use it as an audio and different trends. TikTok and social media push out the soundtracks as well. Like right now, the from Guardians 3, Dog Days Are Over, that song's huge on TikTok. A bunch of different people using it. So yeah, it's whatever they do decide to use, it'll be huge. But we'll probably go for like 5 to 6 more minutes here. So if you want to guarantee we get to your question, comment, or concern, super chat is the way to go. It's been a fun stream so far. We have one more super chat here from Eddie. I got to do this to honor my man Trevor. Eddie! He always does that whenever Eddie shows up. He says, Epic collab. Is there a classic or popular movie you haven't seen that's at the top of your watch list? For me, I need to watch Alien and Aliens ASAP.
Why are you on this live stream and not watching those movies right now, bro? Like, what's up?
Real quick, Alien or Aliens?
Aliens.
What's your preference? Aliens? Okay.
I mean, like, I think both are like top tier sci-fi, absolutely my thing. But I'm a James Cameron guy, not a Ridley Scott guy.
Fair.
And I think everything that I love about Aliens does it, but it cranks it up and it adds more kind of layers to the Ripley's character, and the stuff that Ridley Scott does well with atmosphere and stuff isn't as meaningful for me as what James Cameron did for the maternal side of Ripley. And there's more machine guns and things going on.
This is true. A lot more action heavy. I've seen both movies once. I don't rewatch them a lot. This is 2020. I did this whole 100 movies I missed project here on the channel. I would say I prefer Alien, having only seen them once. But in terms of the question itself, a classic or popular movie you haven't seen? Let me go right now and tell you. I have my watch list pulled up, and I can tell you that one of the more popular movies I haven't seen that people flip out about, there's a few. A more recent one, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I tried it. I couldn't finish it. This was 2018. I was like, I watched 30 minutes. I couldn't get into it. And then an older one I haven't seen. There's a few, and I'll bring this one up. Blade Runner I haven't seen, the first one. This one I'm bringing up because I know you're an action fan. And everyone, my dad, my girlfriend's dad, everyone says watch it. Lethal Weapon. Haven't seen it. So, you a fan of Lethal Weapon?
Yeah, I mean the first two Lethal Weapon films are the quintessential buddy cop films. They're the standard.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one has more dramatic weight to it, and the second one's more fun. But they're also like the epitome of 80s action movies. They're more time bound than say Die Hard, but they're awesome and they're great. Like they're classics. So yeah, Lethal Weapon 1 and 2 are ones that you definitely need to watch.
I'll probably end up watching them all and see what happens. Isn't there rumors that a fifth one's coming out?
Yeah, so Richard Donner directed the original 4, and he died a couple years back, and so Mel Gibson has been said that he was going to direct it, which is fascinating because Mel Gibson as a director, his track record batting average is crazy good, but he's also for obvious reasons been not in the best place in Hollywood for about 15 years. That's actually weird to think about. Like, by the time you start being old enough to have memories, he had already passed from his time as being an A-list guy. But I mean, he was the man, like from all throughout the late 80s until Signs. He was the man. And then he did Passion of the Christ, which of course was a gigantic hit in the church world.
And then he had the Hacksaw Ridge in 2016, but other than that,
and you'd think that would be like the big revival because Hacksaw Ridge nominated for Oscars, and then it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't whatever that is, that they kind of gave him a revival and it worked, but then it didn't work. It's kind of confusing to me. But getting back to the question, I haven't seen Black Hawk Down.
Okay.
I had like 3 in my mind that were like
Black Hawk Down's a good one. I've seen it once. It was years ago though.
Wolf of Wall Street, that's one that's kind
Okay.
of recent that I started watching it, but it was like, oh, it's 3 hours long and it was like intense. And it's like,
It is.
it's like, I needed to watch this in a different mindset. I just haven't watched it yet. So I'm planning on doing a Scorsese ranking later. So I'll later when the new movie comes out later this year. So
That's a task right there. I applaud you for that. That's, I mean, wow.
Yeah, I'm glad that they announced the release date 6 months in advance to give me 6 months to
Yeah.
watch it, because people all the time, why don't you just do this? Like, just do it. 50-year long career, no short movies, no light movies. This is not an easy thing to do, and I've never been like, Scorsese's my favorite. Like, I'm no hate at all. He's just not like the guy that I gravitate towards. Those are intense films.
Yeah.
That is a tricky video. That's a 100-hour project.
It's that's a commitment right there. And again, I really respect that. This we have 2 more super chats here, and then we'll probably wrap it up. We've been going for an hour and a half. Last Resident says, "What is the most underrated MCU movie in your opinion?" For me, it would be Multiverse of Madness, which is, in my opinion, top 10 MCU. That one is near the bottom of my personal ranking. But the most underrated MCU movie for me is I'm gonna have to go with Spider-Man: Far From Home. I thoroughly enjoy that one, and again, I know a lot of people who put it in the bottom 5. I dig it, but that's my answer. What would yours be?
Sometimes it's tricky, because if you've looked at 5 people's MCU rankings, they're all over the place. And there's a handful that we all agree are in the top 10. There's a handful we all agree are in the bottom 10. And then from there, it gets pretty wild. So the one that I feel like I see the most hyperbolic language about that I don't understand is The Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
I don't have it in the top half of my list, but I also don't have it in my bottom tier either. And I see so I did a tier ranking over the weekend, and I told people, hey, make your own tier list, tag me, and I'll share them. And so I saw one where a guy did his, and he was trying to be clever with his names, and so he had like bottom tier, and then below bottom tier it said, I needed to make a tier below bottom tier for Incredible Hulk because I'm a massive hater of it. And then below that was the tier Thor 4.
Oh yeah.
And so,
wow.
But so he's like, I needed a category below bottom tier because I'm a massive hater of Incredible Hulk, and I just don't get that. Like, I don't understand it. And then what was his reason? It's boring. Okay, and boring, I understand. It doesn't have the laugh a minute joke vibe. It's kind of darker. It's reminiscent of the old Bill Bixby TV show. So I get a lot why people wouldn't like it as much, or certainly understand why it's lower on the list. It's lower on my list. But I see all of the hyperbolic language specific to that one that I don't understand. So inherently, that's the one where there's the biggest gap between what makes sense to me and what I see about it.
Another one to me that's underrated is Ant-Man. Like, I think
that's what I was about to say. The Ant-Man.
Right on the border of my top 10. One that I say is underrated, but it's almost been said so much that it's become overrated, is Age of Ultron, because I think it's an underrated movie. But then I did a video where a bunch of people were like, it's better than the first Avengers movie. It's better than Endgame. People were saying in my comments. I was like, in my personal preference, that's too much. It has its issues, but I do think I've seen people dismiss that as like just the worst. Like, at the time I worked at a fast food restaurant in high school, people were like, Age of Ultron's the worst MCU movie. I was like, really? I disagree strongly. So those are the ones that I feel like always get tossed around.
I could see that. Where it's one of those, the people once again have exaggerated language for how bad it is. I think the individual moments are just as good in that one. Like quips, if you do quip by quip for the Joss Whedon Avengers movies, both of them have great quips. Action sequence for action sequence, both of them have great action sequences. I just think the story gets the storytelling gets lost. Like I call it the most confusing MCU film, where I don't know what other movie in the MCU I would call confusing, but like if I go a couple years without watching Age of Ultron and I watch it, I'm like, what are they doing again? What are they trying to steal? And Ultron's trying to make a suit, and
the Wanda mine scene is the one that really like feels like something out of the BVS theatrical cut that's just confusing. Like when we saw the Flash show up in that movie, I was always like, what? It's like teasing something that might not come in the future. It always was out of place to me.
Yeah, well, even at the beginning of the movie, you're watching it, and just immediately the Avengers are on a mission with no context. And like movies start with cold opens frequently, but you get to the end of the sequence, and it like cuts to like Wanda is like doing mind stuff on Tony or something, and it with no explanation, and explained like 2 or 3 scenes later. And so there's just some odd stuff that I think is like flawed about it, but you have like it still has all sorts of great things about it, and people describe it as if it's just this disaster of a film. It's like it's not that. I think when you have these movies that are these team ups, that there's the potential for it to be way up here. People want it to be way up here, and so if it's only here, you have that feeling of disappointment. Whereas Ant-Man, well, what's Ant-Man going to be? You expect it to be here, and then it's better than that, and so it feels like, oh, you can have kind of that, I don't know, that just like expectations for films, like, oh, the Ant-Man films are no good because they're so small scale. That's a weird argument. And then, like, it's the reverse of that. Maybe that's a better way to phrase it. The reverse of that is with Age of Ultron, because it's not top tier, but it's an Avengers film.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that means it must be awful. Like, no.
And
they swung for the fences, and they got a double.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but it's compared to the first Avengers, which was the first big team-up movie we ever got in Hollywood.
Ever. From anyone. No one had ever done that before.
And then Infinity War and Endgame, which is like the 1-2 punch of the MCU, like those are my top dogs. So it's
like they did the incredible. They pulled it off.
It's the worst of the Avengers movies.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's the worst MCU movie. And people, there's a disconnect. I think people just don't realize that.
Yeah, like it's your competition there. You're literally talking about 3 lightnings in a bottles.
Yeah.
It's that you're not supposed to be able to pull it off 3 times out of 4.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird that Endgame is actually excellent. There's no comparative franchise where the 23rd movie in a franchise is really good. Because there's no one else that has done 23 movies in this short a period of time and have it be like a consistent franchise. It's in a category of its own. And the fact that, Avengers 2, like, there's some growing pains in there. They were trying to set up Ragnarok and some other things and allude to Thanos. And it's rocky. It's, maybe it needed to be 20 minutes longer, and they didn't want to do that. So, okay, oops. It's a double instead of a home run.
Yeah, and it's
a
still
double
really
is
solid.
Still a double.
It's like in 16th or something. It's like literally right in the middle of my MCU ranking, Age of Ultron. So, I like it. I like the movie. And the last super chat we have here is from Ryan saying, what is one director you would like to see direct an MCU film? Great question. It's tough to think of these these types of questions off the top of the head.
Yeah.
I know that like a trendy pick is usually a big, like we saw it with Chloe Zhao. She won the Oscar. She went through Eternals. A lot of people would probably say the Daniels, who did Everything Ever All at Once. They would want to see them come in. They already have the Skeleton Crew thing.
So I guess you're caught up on Barry.
I am caught up on Barry, yeah.
They made fun of you in what you just said 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe they put that in, like, they're directly making fun of what Hollywood does, which is the brilliance of the show, but that exact sort of thing. They won an Oscar, so let's put them in a movie with screen and CGI characters.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about in that. But yeah, in terms of like otherwise, like, I mean, it's tough to say. This is a long shot, and it would never happen. But I know people have said this, but I would love to see Steven Spielberg give us just an origin story for someone. Whether that, I don't know what character that could even be, but give us a Spielberg adventure, an unknown character in the MCU, like just a newbie. Give me that. I know there were rumors he was going to do Fantastic Four for a while. That fell through, but I would be down to see Spielberg take on an MCU movie if it was he cared enough about it. I don't know if it would ever happen, but it'd be cool.
I think my thought is, if we're talking about bring a director in like and given the freedom like James Gunn had, and it feels like that director, then
Mhm.
this is an interesting question to me. But that's part of the frustration is that praised Daniel Destin Cretton earlier for Glass Castle, and then a lot of Shang-Chi, which I really liked the movie, it didn't feel like it had a distinct directorial style to it. It felt very MCU product. So I'm trying to think who's someone that makes sense to bring in that could be given the freedom, but that fits in the boundaries.
It's tough. It
And
is.
off the top of my, and then you try to think. I'm trying to sync up a director to a franchise. What are our Marvel franchises that are left? So like who would I want to do X-Men?
Yeah.
That would be like the person that would be like they could do a really good job with that. Like who's someone that has done something that's mid-budget or smaller that could get that promotion?
I would be fine with like Mangold, but he's already done a Marvel films and was great at it, so that feels like cheap.
And I think Mangold, and I go, he would make sense if he goes over and does Swamp Thing with DC.
Yeah.
Because he got it that darker edge,
Mm-hmm.
and there's that brightness. Like I think Spielberg in MCU, I go, yeah, I can see a lot of the overlap there.
Yeah.
And if there's the right project, like what's the franchise that like you give Spielberg to bring a little bit of that Amblin '80s magic as a Marvel story?
Well, it might have been the Fantastic Four one, but that obviously ended up that was a good match. I always liked the rumor. Again, I think it would have to be some sort of new character that we're not familiar with that's younger, like the E.T. Stranger Things type of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would love something like that, but I don't think that would ever happen. So this is a tough one. I stand by Spielberg just because why not? It proved that you can do it all at this point.
Okay, I'm gonna cheat my answer a little bit. I did a video. I did a video about who I wanted to direct Blade when the director dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're shut down now anyway, why not replace the director again? I'm gonna mess with the whole system. Let's bring in Chad Stileski to do Blade.
Ooh, I like that. Give us some of the best action in the MCU. I'm here for it. I like it. But yeah, that seems like a good one to end the stream on here. Again, I know there were tons of you guys in here. I could not get to every question. I got to all the super chats I could and all the questions I could. So thank you guys so much for being here. About an hour 40 on a Monday evening. Sean, thank you so much for joining, man. It was a blast. I hope to be able to collab again in the future. And before we get out of here, do you have anything you want to say? Anything coming up? Any plugs? I have all of your social medias linked in the description.
Awesome. Big thing, I have a second channel called Sean Chandler Plus that I've been running this year where I'm clipping out segments from live streams. So it's, on my main channel, you still have the reviews and the rankings. But if you want more kind of like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in here that are more kind of answering people's questions about movie news, editorial stuff, I have that on my second channel. This exact kind of content, more free form, personality can come out a little bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone go subscribe to Sean, and you can go to his channel and find all of his additional channels there as well. But again, thank you for joining, man. It was a blast. Mm-hmm. If you guys are here in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out. If you're here on the replay, because I know time zones are a thing all over the world, thank you guys for being here on the replay. Hit that like button, leave some questions. I'll try and get to them. Stay tuned for more content coming this week, from shorts to more videos on all the social medias. Again, you can follow me down there, linked down below. But that's going to do it for this live stream. And until next time, see you guys later.